Okay. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Let's start as usual with a calming meditation, spending 5 minutes adjusting your motivation. So having a motivation that includes both yourself and others as the reason why you're doing this class today. And then spending some time either focusing on your breath or focusing on your awareness to just start to slow the mind and turn inward a bit. So, hello again, and I'm delighted to see all of you here. I just learned a new definition for delighted that's related to rejoicing. So, being happy when people do things that make them happy. That's delight. So, let's do a little bit of review from yesterday. So, let's see what I have in my slides. Nope. Okay. Stop that sharing. Okay, so we talked about the 6 realms of existence. So we talked about 3 lower realms and 3 upper realms. And the lower realms were the hell realm, which is dominated by the delusion of hatred or anger. The preta or hungry ghost realm, which is dominated by the delusion of greed and therefore lack of satisfaction, never being satisfied. And then we had the animal realm, which is filled with the delusion of ignorance, of stupidity, and because of that, this inability to control their situation, to change their situation, which makes it, of those 3 realms in particularly, less than ideal for spiritual growth. And then the 3 upper realms are the human realm, the demigod realm, and the God realm. And the demigod realm is particularly filled with the delusion of jealousy, in particular of all those beings in the God realm. So they spend a lot of time fighting and at wars and in a lot of conflict. And again, there's no room for spiritual development. And then there is the God realm, where everything is very, very blissful and comfortable, and there's never the thought of wanting to change anything, of wanting to grow or develop in any way, because everything is already perfect until their lives end. After these very, very long lives, then they start, within, I think it's like a week or something before they die, they start aging really badly, and they realize that they haven't, that they're still stuck in the cycle of samsara, and that their next rebirth, because they've blown all this positive karma, is going to result in a lower rebirth, most likely. So they're still suffering, even though it takes a while for them to realize it. And during that whole time, they never want to practice. They never have any motivation to practice. And so the human realm being ideal, because, well, we have this human mind, and also we have equal parts of happiness, freedom from suffering. So we have the time and energy and intelligence to be able to change our minds and progress spiritually. And because we have a certain amount of suffering, we're motivated to change our situation, to make our situation better. So those are the 3 realms. Now, then we talked about reincarnation, because in order for reincarnation to be possible, in order for these realms to be possible, for us to even consider that we could be born as something different, then reincarnation has to be on the table. Okay, so we have to consider where we are in that whole spectrum of this belief in karma, in rebirth. Okay, so we can imagine that there are some people who are totally convinced, no question about it, absolutely, there is rebirth. And then we have people who are completely convinced there's nothing after, in our afterlife, life ends with death, and there's no question about that. And then most of us are somewhere in between. in terms of some of us have more belief in rebirth and some of us have less. So when we are examining where we are, then we also think about some of the evidence, some of the reasoning that proves the existence of rebirth, and see if our opinion doesn't change, okay? Because as Buddhists, it's really important for us to be open to these concepts, of course, of Buddhism, but also to use our discerning mind, use our logic and our ability to examine, to question, to test, right, as much as possible, and then allowing that if it seems like it makes sense, you know, that it's logical, then we have a certain responsibility to, you know, change our attitudes, change our beliefs, because just staying stuck because we've always thought that way, or because that's the way we were, you know, taught, or something like that, isn't really using our minds, isn't really, you know, training our minds, isn't getting our minds more in line with reality, according to Buddhism. So some of the things that we talked about that have to do with whether reincarnation is actual or not. We first talked about Ian Stevenson's research on the little children who remember their past lives, have certain memories of their past lives, and then you can learn about some of that research and see that that there is not a lot of other explanations for the fact that these children make statements that are true that they could not have known in any other way. So so looking at that evidence, you know, you can watch, I think there's probably on YouTube, there's interviews with kids who have done this. I mean, there's, you know, many children who have made these statements, and you can find this. And then that book that I recommended, Life Before Life by Jim Tucker, is a really good one. And then we talked about Dharmakirti's logic from the Pramanavartaka, which has to do with this cause and effect, that like causes like. And so therefore the mind cannot be caused by the brain, because the brain is a physical thing and the mind is a non-physical thing. So in order for the mind to exist now in us, you know, and for us to have access to it, it has to have been caused by something non-physical, a previous moment of mind. And then we talked about the fact that you can go back and back and back in this continuum of the mind stream. And some of us, you know, can remember even early childhood, but imagining that the first moment of mind in a this life had to have been caused from a previous moment of mine in a past life. And then the last moment of mine in this life will be the cause for the next moment of mine in the next life. Yeah, and I wonder if conservation, like we talk about conservation of matter, I wonder if that doesn't have something to do, if you could apply that to the mind. So it's definitely taking, you know, physical, natural sort of phenomena and applying them to the mind, these rules of, like, you know, cause and effect, and, you know, this sort of thing. Okay, so that's the reasoning related to that, it could not be caused by the brain. And then we talked about near-death experiences, how some people have mental experiences even though their brains are dead. We talked about that book, Proof of Heaven, where that neuroscientist who had mental experiences even though he had no brain function. We talked about this nature versus nurture as an explanation for some of the giftedness in children, or even personality traits that appear in families where there's a very similar genetic component and also a very similar environment, but the children have very different personality traits, and even at a very young age. And you know, and this needs, of course, lots of research and testing, and it's just one of right now it's sort of an anecdotal example. And then we talked about this phenomena of tukdam, where the consciousness stays in the body of certain meditators even after all their physical functions have shut down. And the evidence of the consciousness still being present in the body is that the body doesn't deteriorate, it doesn't decay, it doesn't, start falling apart like most dead bodies do, because until the consciousness leaves the body, and then the natural decaying process takes place. So this being again this proof that the physical is not the source of the mental, that the consciousness can exist without a body, and so therefore the chances of it being able to transfer to a new body makes a lot of sense, or having come from an old body makes a lot of sense. And it's only if we agree that the brain is the source of the mind that we start to have the idea that when the body dies, the mind dies. Okay, so again, looking at cause and effect, looking at the causes and conditions that go into any event or any situation, we can see if we start to examine very closely, and we did this when we did the meditation on dependent arising. We started to look at all the complex conditions that had to happen in order for us even to exist right now. In order for me to be sitting here in this body at this moment, there had to have been a huge number of conditions that came together that supported me. I had an operation. I've had actually 2 operations, but one was probably more life-threatening than the other. And if there was not the doctors, who operated on me, if there was not all the equipment, if there was not the medicine, if there was not the hospital, if there was not all the the medical schools and all the professors in the medical schools and all the people who trained them, I would not be here today. Right? And that's just a little part of what it took in order for me to exist in this moment. And even if you never had a serious illness, if you've ever taken medicine to get better, instead of letting a disease, take its course when it could make you very sick, or, all the food, all the clothing, the warmth, all the shelter, all the things that go into it, we can start to see that the number of factors, the interdependence of factors that go into us being present is huge, which means that it is very rare. So how do you look at that? Yeah. Uh, it's like luck, right? It's like winning the lottery, isn't it, in some ways? Because if any one of those little pieces were missing, then there would be a chance that we wouldn't be here, right? I mean, there was, yeah, that I don't want to go into that example. That's kind of a scary one. So, okay. So let's look at this life that we have, okay? We have this, what's called a precious human life right now. And this precious human life is the product of, again, all these causes and conditions that went into the fact that right now we have the freedoms and the opportunities, this is what they're called traditionally, to be able to develop ourselves spiritually. And this, again, very, very, even if you're a human being, there are very few people who have all these conditions that have come together for us. So let's look at what some of those are, and then we'll talk a little more about its rarity. So we call this life that we have right now a precious human life. Now, all human beings are precious, okay? No doubt about it. But our particular situation is considered a precious human life because all these things have come together that support our ability to use this life in the most meaningful way, to be able to create the conditions for either liberation, enlightenment, or a better rebirth. Okay. And not everybody has these conditions that have come together. There are, a certain, at least 8 billion or 7 billion people who don't have these conditions. Okay. So we have a human body and a human mind. So obviously among sentient beings, there's only a small number that are actually human, right? Even if we look outside, we can see there are a lot more insects and a lot more insects that exist in the world that do not have a human body or a human mind. So they don't have this possibility. We have the ability to learn and understand. So even there are human beings who don't have this ability, or their learning is very, very, very slow. They don't have the ability to do some of this abstract thinking. Another of our opportunities is the fact and endowments is that fact that Buddhism has been taught and still exists in the world. Okay, so we have a path in front of us, and we can actually learn about this path to get free of our samsaric existence. And then we have religious freedom. In India alone, it's amazing that, the Indian people were so kind that they supported the Tibetan Buddhists who came here, because Buddhism died out in India, in the 11th century. And if conditions were different in India, and maybe at one point they decided, no, we're only going to be Muslim, or we're only going to be Hindu, or we're only going to be Christian, and they said nobody else who is in this country can practice any other religion, then we wouldn't have this opportunity that we have right now to talk about Buddhism. Like I'm doing this from India, right? And so in many countries, there are not these, either people have never heard about this path of working with their minds, or they're not allowed to explore it. Even in some Middle Eastern countries, and also in China, the internet is very limited. It's not open and free, and you can't, access anything. They don't let you access certain sites. And so this this opportunity that we have to be able to examine and practice is very precious, and we all have it right now. And then having an interest in spiritual practice. You've probably known people who were not interested in spirituality at all. Their focus was totally on the material. They're having a good career, making lots of money, having children, having cars, and this idea of thinking about something that is beyond what your senses, can know. This idea that maybe there is another life that is beyond just this earth or these human beings, that then there, and to be interested in even exploring that is something that each one of you has, or else you wouldn't be here listening to this, right? So you have an interest in exploring, like maybe there is a better way, maybe there's a different way, maybe just the suffering is, we can get free of it. And it isn't just a matter of, the next nice feeling that I can get to try to forget the bad feeling that I had, but this idea that we can stop that suffering, and some forms of suffering we can even put to rest completely. So having an interest in this change. Um, Another thing that we have is you aren't alone in your spiritual practice. We have right now, 171 other people who are also listening to this, who are interested in Buddhism. We have a Sangha, we have a community right now of practitioners. And that, that's a lot of people. I mean, it's not, 3,000 or something like that, but it is, a significant number of people who are saying, okay, I'm going to take an hour and a half out of my day, and I'm going to examine this, and I'm going to look at this, and I'm going to listen to this, and this makes sense to me, right? So you have this support. If I only had 2 or 3, you know, people who are listening to me, I don't know that I would be here, right? I might say, you know, it's not worth it, right? Exactly. It's not worth it. You have the material conditions. Each one of you must have some kind of a device, or else you couldn't be listening, right? And that is not necessarily true for the, you know, many billions of people, right? They don't necessarily have access to the internet. They don't have, or even know how to use a computer, right? I mean, be able to read my screen. You know, how many people are illiterate? You know, or it's just amazing, or have the money to pay an internet service provider. You know, or have phone service. I mean, it's just it's not something that we can take for granted. You know, having the time, having the freedom, having the support. And then you have enough freedom from suffering. Right now, you aren't so sick that all you can do is lie in bed and fall asleep and wake up and fall asleep, and that's it. You know, you have some freedom from that, so you can actually spend some time thinking about other things. And then you have access to qualified teachers. So His Holiness the Dalai Lama encouraged his lamas to teach Westerners, you know, to actually learn English. I mean, His Holiness learned English. He didn't just stay, you know, in only Tibetan and only the Tibetan people and only his monks and nuns. He was actually willing to encourage the spread of Buddhism all over the world. And I would not be here. I would not know what I know if he didn't do that, because Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa, actually my teacher that I learned from in Portland, in Oregon, in the U.S., was one of Lama Yeshe. He was a reincarnation of one of Lama Yeshe's students. So he was recognized as a reincarnation, and then he was you know, brought to a monastery. He was sent to another monastery, and then he opened up a college, and Lama Zopa and the FPMT supported this, you know, the development of this college, where I actually got my degree in Buddhism. And I wouldn't, you know, be qualified to teach you if that all those conditions didn't come together. And then you wouldn't even know that Tushita existed, you know, if Lama Yeshe didn't and Lama Zopa didn't set it up, you know. So it's just amazing thinking about the number of causes and conditions that are necessary for us to be here right now, and able to benefit and able to change, you know, able to learn, able to examine, and able to grow and be, you know, get some freedom from our difficulties, from our negative emotions that cause us to create harm, that cause us to stay in this suffering state. So they talk about, okay, where am I at time? Okay, so they talk about the rarity as being like, and I'll try to do this quick and then we'll move on. So the rarity of um, having all these conditions come together. They use the example of a turtle. Okay, so if you imagine a sea turtle, you know, kind of like the cool ones in Finding Nemo. So imagine a sea turtle with the flippers, but this sea turtle is blind, okay? And it swims around in all the oceans, okay? So imagine, what do we have? Like the earth is covered, 2/3 of the earth is covered by water, and probably a little more by now with climate change. And if you can imagine, you know, so hundreds and, you know, thousands of square kilometers of water, of surface water. If you can imagine this blind turtle swimming anywhere in all these oceans, and on the surface of the ocean, there is a yoke. So a yoke is like a wooden collar, okay? And it's floating on the surface of the ocean, and it's tossed here and there. And this turtle goes up to the surface once every 100 years. Okay, once every 100 years. Now, what is the possibility, how slim or how great is the possibility that when that turtle swims up to the surface, it's going to put its head through that yoke? Not very likely, right? Pretty slim, right? And so the chances of us getting the precious human rebirth is the same as that turtle getting its head through the yolk. Okay, that's how rare it is. That's for all these things to come together for us in one lifetime is so, so very rare. It's as rare as the turtle putting its head through the yolk. Okay, so then it becomes so precious, you know, so precious. And then you don't want to waste it, right? You don't want to, you know, use it for meaningless activities. You want to enjoy it, of course. It's not, you know, you don't want to get so serious that you don't ever enjoy this wonderful life that you have. But you do want to use it well and make it meaningful, because it has huge opportunities for developing, for growing, for, you know, we just, yeah, we have so much. Okay, so one of the things that is most difficult for people when they're in the early stages of practicing Buddhism is to just sit still and meditate, and to do this on a regular basis. For many, many people, they just this idea of, you know, carving out space and time in their schedule and settling enough to just sit still is very difficult, especially in our modern lives, where things, you know, we have so many distractions. I mean, it's so easy to just watch TV or listen to the radio or talk to your friends or read a book, or, you know, everything to do something is so encouraged. But to simply be, to sit still and be, is much more difficult. And yet what we're saying here is that in order to work with the mind, to make the mind more flexible, to develop these realizations, we have to learn how to do that. So we're going to try something new today. We did it this morning, but it'll be new for you. Is we're going to do breakout groups, okay? So Felipe has the ability to divide you all into groups of 2 or 3 people, where those are the only people who are going to show up on your screen, are the people that you were talking with, and he'll unmute you. And it's good if you you know, start your video so the people can see you. Okay, and I'm going to give you an assignment. I'm going to have you discuss some things. Now, part of Buddhism is not just absorbing the material, but it's also doing some reflection, doing some examination. And we do this through discussion. Okay, so this is really amazing that we can do this online. So I really, really encourage you not to just stop and, you know, quit the class because you don't want to do it. Okay, so because I know it's a little hard. I just did it like yesterday in another class, so that's how I learned we could do it. And I was like really resistant, right? But get over it, because they're really amazing people here, and you have this opportunity to meet them, right? Some of the people, and who knows, it could be, you know, on the other side of the world. So if it doesn't work, if they don't give you a group, come back, and Felipe has the ability to reassign you. So if something technical goes wrong, please try again, okay? Don't just drop and quit and go do something else. The morning group reported really, really enjoying this process. And if you really, really don't want to do it, then come back after 10 minutes and we'll go back into the big group and I'll start teaching again. Okay. So your assignment is to talk about what are your obstacles to meditation practice. And if you have overcome some obstacles, some difficulties to practicing, then what have you done that has been successful? Okay, so how have you solved some of your problems that have kept, you know, that kept you from sitting still and doing your meditation practice? And if you haven't had any solutions, maybe somebody else in your group has some solutions that they can offer. Okay, so discussing meditation practice and, yeah, doing it. Okay, I'm ready, Felipe, go for it.
Okay, I'm gonna unmute all and break everyone into the rooms. So 1
And
second.
we'll just do this for 10 minutes.
Oh yeah, I have to set the timer.
Yep.
Okay, participants into breakout rooms. Okay, there we go.
Hello. That means you have to unmute yourself.
Hello.
Where are you?
I'm in Norwich in England.
England? Oh.
Yep.
Hello. Ankur.
I'm
Where are
from New Delhi.
New
India.
Delhi.
Yeah. Wonderful.
I'm meant to be. I was meant to be in Tashita last week with you guys. So this is a real gift. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, I'm meant to be in India with you guys now.
Yeah, I wish you were.
I wish I was so much.
Yeah.
But,
In a few months.
In a few months, hopefully. I will be
Yes.
there. I can come meet you.
Good.
It's an interesting question actually, because I was only thinking at the weekend that I should do some meditation, but for some reason I didn't. But I know that it's definitely helping me find peace and calm and feel better. But for some reason, I don't know what it is. Yeah, so this is an interesting question for me. How about you guys?
Yeah, so generally, the obstacles when we do meditation, like breathing and focusing, the worldly thoughts come to our mind, the professional tensions and the personal life tensions that often come to my mind. However,
Yeah.
I have tried, we still cannot escape them. So that's what I want to know. How do we strengthen our mind so that these thoughts don't come into and we calmly meditate and be perfect in that?
Yeah, it's hard, I think.
Yeah.
I've had, I still will start teaching in my mind, like even when I'm meditating. Yeah, I'll just start thinking about what I'm going to talk about instead of being, present. Yeah, what I found is, just practice, like over and over and over again. I have to bring my mind back, and that's the strengthening. It's just like doing weightlifting, repetitions. That's what I found. Is that, yeah? Is that
Yeah,
what
I
you
think
found?
what I've found as well during our sessions is that the meditation at the beginning I'm much more, I find easier than the one at the end, because my mind's already thinking, oh, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, like straight after. And I don't know if you feel the same. How do you say it, Anka?
Yeah, so I have adopted the approach like I start counting within my mind. I count my breaths. So that way I'm able to maintain a longer duration, but after some time, then still those worldly thought comes into my mind, the professional tensions and the personal stress going on in the life, but it still comes. So
yeah.
Right now.
I sometimes have done a mantra. I've got my prayer beads that I got from McCloy Ganj, and I sometimes will like do a meditation and use them, and I find that helps me keep focus. And yeah, having a mantra, it shuts down the rest of the brain, so I'm focused more. Or coming back to the breath, I try that, but my mind does wander. I definitely know that.
Yeah, and I think even you have to be really, really advanced for that not to happen. I don't think, it takes a lot of years to get to that point where it doesn't at least intrude a little bit. I sometimes use labeling too, where I'll say, okay, I'm teaching. And when I say that, when I label it, then it's easier to let go of it. It's easier to ignore it.
Yeah.
So like if you say job or, something like that, when you categorize it, that helps too, I think.
Yeah. I think I try and sort of notice it and sort of say, okay, I've noticed it, and then sort of like acknowledge it and then try to let it go, which is similar. It's,
I'll also try that labeling thing and once and see if it works out well. Probably I'll provide.
I sometimes do something similar at night when if I can't sleep, I try and put out there that I'm thankful for a good night's sleep, and I keep sort of trying to do, so that I know that's different and it's not conscious meditation, but if I focus on saying something or doing a particular thing, I find that helps to quieten my mind. Because sometimes, because like you, my mind's like, about all these other things like work or this or that or whatever.
Do you have trouble getting to the cushion? I mean, even to just sit?
I'm able to sit in the lotus feet position. I'm able to do that, but not more than 5 minutes. It starts paining in the legs. So I adopt the half lotus feet position.
Yeah, I only sit in the half lotus too. I can't imagine. I think I've been able to do the lotus, but not for 5 minutes. That's long. Yeah.
I can sit cross-legged. Yeah, I can sit for a while. I got sore legs as well, but I think sometimes, so like when we're doing it together, I find it quite easy to spend that time. But I think like you, I can take, when I'm not in group, I sometimes forget, or I'm conscious that maybe I should, but I don't actually consciously make that time to just sit and do it, which I know I will benefit from, which is crazy. So why don't I do it?
Yeah. Me too. Yeah, sometimes I think it's just because it takes too much effort. So I think then I'm too tired, so I don't, but then it's restful in many ways too. So, but for some reason, I think just getting there is hard. Yeah.
But it's silly because we know we benefit, don't we?
Yeah. And yeah. And that's what I say, to people, like, I mean, I teach that you think about the benefits, and then and that's what will motivate you to get you there, to create the time and the space. Yeah, what my obstacles for me are like being too tired. And I don't know what gets in the way of me getting to my cushion besides that. Yeah, I guess I doing is so much easier than sitting. So then I take the easy way, or I think that might be it.
What about you, Anka?
Yeah.
Don't know. Maybe sometimes I'm able to do meditation, but most of the time we are stuck in professional life and personal life. It's so hectic. It becomes really difficult.
And Delhi's crazy, isn't it? Delhi's like crazy. It's hard to find peace in Delhi.
Yeah.
It's hard. I remember when I was there last time. But yeah, it's great. But sometimes I find walking and being in nature, I find that brings me the similar peace. I find that is almost like meditation for me. But it's not the same, is it? It's sitting consciously and meditating.
No, it could be. It could be, I think. Sure. Yeah. It's like mindfulness. It's mindfulness because you're being in the present moment. Yeah. I think that helps the mind calm so it can be more flexible. Yeah.
I find because I used to live, I'm meant to be like moving to Delhi, right? Moving to India for a while. So I've rented out my house and I used to live by the beach and I miss it. But I found water near where I'm staying at my friend's house. So I found water near here and I find that it brings me a calmness.
Yeah.
Which for me is a bit like meditation. I don't know about you.
I miss the ocean.
Oh, I know. Me too.
Yeah. Do you go out into nature, Ankur?
Yes, very less. But yes, when I have been to McLeodganj and I have been to mountains. So, and when we go to near to the seashore, it's very peaceful.
Yes.
Very calm. Definitely. It regenerates you. The effects are there.
Yeah. But the mountains there are amazing, aren't they? And they bring a lot of peace as well, don't they? We've all been there, which is really lovely that we've all been to Tashita. Have you been to Tashita, Uncle?
No,
Okay, welcome back. Let's see. Oh, we didn't lose so many. A few. Hopefully they'll come back. There's a few more. Okay, so great. Excellent. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. So let's go on and review a little bit from the last course about the different types of meditation. Okay. All right. So we talked a bit about each one of these in the last course, but just to review. So this calm abiding that we did, at the beginning of this, and we're also going to do some more at the end in a few minutes. We're going to do some calm abiding after the questions. Particularly single-pointed focus. Usually we start with the breath, but you can also do it on awareness. It involves relaxation in order to make the mind more flexible and able to learn to stay on one topic or one particular object. We have to have relaxation, because if we have tense, if we're really tight or tense, then our minds, they're like rubber bands. They get stretched too thin and they bounce back. So they just go off. When there's a lot of tightness, that's very much related to the inability to stay on one object. Yeah, and so that's why, clamping down, doesn't work. We actually have to hold our object lightly. And then there's this sense of clarity, that the object that we're meditating on, we want to have a very clear view of it. It's like an absorption into it, so that there isn't room for other distracting thoughts to arise. And then introspection is this awareness of the quality of our attention on our particular object. So we use introspection to evaluate whether our minds are too tight or whether they're too loose. And then the analytic meditation uses active thinking to analyze a topic. So what we do within analytic thinking, in analytic meditation, is we bring our ability to focus onto a specific topic or a specific concept that we're trying to expand and deepen and change our mind. So we talked about the fact of impermanence. I emphasized that a lot in the last class. The fact that things are constantly changing, and their constant change means that our belief that they are going to stay the same, or our expectations that things are going to stay the same, doesn't make any sense, right? So the more we can meditate on the fact that things are constantly changing, the more our minds, our perceptions will start to shift to, then there would be no expectation that something is going to stay the same. So like the example I gave was, I had an iPhone and I was walking along this building and I dropped my iPhone and I cracked the screen, okay? And I was really excited to find out how I would react to it, because then I would know how much I had an expectation that my iPhone was permanent in some way and would never break. Okay, because we have that view. It's just because things appear as if they're unchanging, we rarely have the view that they do change. So anyway, analytic meditation helps us to start to see things differently. Okay, so So I actually was not all that upset. I was like, oh, well, it was going to break anyway someday, you know, it was going to fall apart someday. So, you know, then I didn't have the same kind of disappointment or, you know, upset. I didn't get all that upset when it broke. Okay, so we use our minds to think about it, to question, and to debate. And then we talked about mindfulness. So this open awareness of what is happening to us, whatever sensations we're feeling, whatever thoughts we're having, emotions, whatever's going on around us in the environment. And it includes being aware of the presence of consciousness. So sometimes walking in the in nature, we can practice this mindfulness of not being carried away into the present, the past, or the future. Because so often we are, you know, we'll be doing something, you know, like we'll be driving, or we'll be eating, or we'll be showering, and our minds will be totally somewhere else, you know, that we'll be showering and we'll already be in our morning meeting for work, you know, or we'll be eating and we'll be thinking about, you know, last year's vacation or something. And so mindfulness is about bringing us into an awareness, reminding, you know, being present with what's happening for us. Okay, just to review those, let's see what else. Oh, I think that's enough. Let's go to some questions. Okay, if you have questions about precious human rebirth, or about meditation, shamatha, any of these meditations, let's talk about that.
Please start typing your questions in the chat. No one has yet. The queue is actually free. So if anyone has questions, now's the moment.
No one? If there are none, I can keep teaching.
Okay, there's a few now.
Okay.
Okay, I'll start with Candela. By the way, just so for all the people, perhaps there's some people who are new or don't know how to ask the question, you have to type your questions out in the chat. The microphones, all the microphones are muted, and I only unmute the people who actually ask a question in the chat first. So I'll start with Candela Fernandez. Can I ask you a question?
Hi. Thank
Hi.
you so much first for giving this course. We are really happy for it. And my question is about rebirth. Like, I was thinking early in the morning when you started, how does animals, for example, lions or those animals that have to kill in order to feed themselves, how can they evolve to like another stage? Because that killing is all the time creating about karma. How does it work?
Well, for one thing, they don't have a strong intention to harm those beings, that they don't have hatred or anger when they're killing to eat. So their intention is to stay alive. So it's not the same as like a human being in some circumstances killing another human being out of, you know, greed or out of hatred or out of anger. It's so the intention is not as powerful. So that's one thing. The other thing is that by being in, so we have lots and lots of karmic seeds that we have planted because we have been, these mind streams have existed since beginningless lives, right? So we have lots of virtuous karma, and to be born as a human, a god, demigod, anything, right? And we have lots of non-virtuous karma. So what these animals are doing is that by being in the animal realm, they are actually spending the causes to be born an animal. So the seeds that were planted to be born in the animal realm are actually running out, okay, because they are an animal. So that leaves room for any virtuous karma that they have created to manifest in the next life to be born a human. Okay, so that's how
I got it.
They say it works.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Okay, I'm going to move on to Diane. You know, ask your question.
Diane?
Yeah, no, it was basically the same question. Hi.
Hi.
It's just I was wondering how you can go from one realm to another one, but I think you just answer it with the
Okay.
animals.
Okay. Good. Yeah.
Okay, let's do another one with
Sure.
wait 1 second. Oh, wait, I'm getting flooded. Okay, I'll go to Michelle.
Okay.
Michelle, you can ask your question. Hello? Michelle, are you there? Doesn't seem like it. No? Okay, we'll go to the next one. Okay, let's go to Ward.
Hi, actually I have two questions. Does the Buddhist theory, like the Spiritist theory, believe that after this life we get reborn in a human life and there's no way to get reborn in an animal life? Or is it more like the Hindu tradition that says that after human life we can get reborn in an animal? And is it affected by karma? So if we do good, we get reborn in a human body, and if we do bad, we get reborn in an animal.
So yes, you can go either up or down. So you can be a human again, or you can be an animal. It's not. Yeah, there's. Yeah, either any. You could be reborn in any realm. Okay, in the next life. It does depend on which karmic seed is most powerful and ripens at the moment of this death. Okay, when we die, what is the karmic seed that is ripening, and also what are the supporting conditions for that next life. But mostly it's that karmic seeds that determines. So the more that we can use this life to purify our negative karma, to create the causes to be born a human again, we're more likely to, which includes aspirations and prayers. It includes doing virtuous actions, benefiting others. These are all causes of this precious human rebirth. Practicing generosity, giving, providing a really good family situation for children actually creates the causes for us to be born in like a supportive family where we can continue to learn and practice the Dharma, and then make even more progress in our next life if we don't get liberated in this life. You're muted. You're muted.
Yeah, let me unmute him again.
Okay.
For some reason he got muted again.
Yeah.
There we go.
Zoom was doing that in my other course too. It mutes people without anybody doing anything. Okay, go ahead, Ward.
Well, and by the way, so if I unmute, it says that I can't because only Felipe can unmute me. But anyway,
Yeah.
so it kind of puts the things in perspective that you said about the turtle. So the turtle that swims into this yolk, so to say, is very rare. But if my action in this life are very good, then it's not so rare. Then it's quite likely I'll get reborn in the next life.
Right. But getting a precious human rebirth in the first place, because you don't know what you were in the last life. Maybe you were human in the last life and you had a precious human rebirth and now you have one. So getting one again, if you use this opportunity well, is then less rare. But getting it originally, coming out of hell or animal or whatever, that's what's rare.
I understand. Thank you.
Sure.
All right, now we move on to Ankur. You can ask your question.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes. Hi.
Hi. I just wanted to know, like you told about the 3 types of meditations. Are there certain circumstances under which we need to perform these meditations, like type 1, type 2, or type 3? And do these all lead to the same aim, or do they serve different purposes?
Yeah, they serve different purposes, and you would use them based on what you were trying to work on or what you were trying to achieve. In general, for practicing the Lam Rim, which is what I'm teaching here, it's good if you can be doing all 3 at some point, but primarily the shamatha and the vipassana, so the calm abiding and the analytic. So if you can spend some time doing calm abiding and some time doing analytic, that's the best way to progress along this path of the Lam Rim. Yeah. And then mindfulness is helpful in particularly off the cushion, actually. You know, not as much when you're sitting, unless you have something really difficult that you're dealing with. Mindfulness is just nice to stay present. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
We do one more.
Yes. We have time for even a couple more. It's only 2 after.
Yeah, you're right. Let's go to Ethan. Wait. There we go.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, I cannot see you, but I can hear your voice. I have 2 questions. The first one is, when we die, who decide in which body and which person or animal we will reincarnate?
Yeah. Nobody decides. There's no conscious decision by any being there. It is determined by the karmic seeds that have been planted in the mind stream and the conditions that come together in order to support that particular karmic seed. So if at the end of your life you have a very virtuous mind and you have planted the habit to be kind, to be generous, to be loving, all these, then the chances of that karma ripening in your mind to be born a human are greater. Okay, but if you have all this hatred and anger and you've hurt a lot of people and that's the state of mind that you die with, then you're more likely to be born in in a hell realm. Okay, or if you have lots of greed, lots of miserliness, and that's all you're thinking about is this wealth that you're leaving behind, like that, then the chances are higher that you'll be born. Now it's hard to know exactly, but because karma is so complex, but we can encourage the human rebirth in the next life through these, for developing a virtuous state of mind throughout our lives and decreasing our afflictive emotions.
I can imagine someone like you or Lama or Dalai Lama, like so powerful in spirituality. How come they still would come back in this life again? Because I have the feeling you know already so much about this life. How come usually you reincarnate again here?
Yeah. Well, not me. Okay, not me. I'm just an ordinary being who got it this life. So it's not me. But there are some lamas, like Lama Zopa, and my teacher, the Dalai Lama, who choose to come back. Now they have been liberated from samsara, and they choose to come back in order to benefit sentient beings. Okay, so in their case, it isn't a matter of their karma determining it. They're actually showing up so they can teach us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I have a last question. You talked also about God last time. So it means that we can come back in a life becoming a ghost. And I want to know what exactly is a ghost.
Yeah, a ghost. That's tough. I've only read a little bit about it. They have a body, they have a mind, but their body is very, very subtle. And so it's obviously we can't see them, most of us. Some people can see ghosts, but we can't. I can't. So a ghost is someone, and in this, we're talking about a specific kind of ghost in this, when we're talking about this hungry ghost realm. We're talking about a ghost who has a specific mind, and this very subtle body that is not as gross and physical as our body is. Does that help?
Mm,
No?
not really, no. Because
Okay.
here, ghost is someone who is dead but not going to the next life. So he's still here, but we cannot see him. But I don't
Yeah.
understand why they're here. Well,
Yeah. Yeah, so that's a different kind of ghost. A ghost who is still, yeah, a ghost who is still attached to this life and doesn't move on to another life is actually in another life, but in a ghost realm. Okay. And then when they die as a ghost, then they could be born as a human again. So ghosts can die. Yeah, they can stop being ghosts and let go of that very subtle body, and then their mind can manifest in a different body. So yeah, so they're very similar in many ways. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
So there's one question here to ask on her behalf. It
Sure.
says, I find myself mixing the different types of meditation, for example, using mindfulness during an analytic meditation because my mind drifts away. The question is, when I sit to practice analytic meditation, should I only practice that? Is that even possible?
Yes, I think it is. It is possible. What you do with that, the best way to practice analytic meditation is to know your topic before you sit down and start working with it, and even have like an outline in front of you or specific questions that you're going to ask yourself, that you're going to answer in order to analyze the topic. Because then it's easier that when your mind starts drifting to, being aware of sensations or, the surrounding or your thoughts and feelings, instead you can bring your mind back over and over again to go deeper into the topic.
Seems like it's answered. It says thank you. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Should we go into the meditation or you want to do
Yes.
one?
No, let's go to the meditation. Yeah.
All right. So everyone please set up your posture. Let's go back to a comfortable position. So allow your body to be grounded and stable. Letting the bell bring you into the space of the body. Just take a moment to become aware of the physical sensations in your body, wherever it comes in contact with the surface you're sitting on. Whether you're sitting on a cushion, on a chair, on the floor, on your bed. Simply become aware of that sensation of contact, of pressure, the weight of your body. And then gently expanding that awareness to cover the entire space of the body. Becoming aware of the different physical sensations that manifest. Noticing sensations such as temperature, hot or cold, perhaps tightness, pressure, feeling of comfort, relaxation, perhaps some tingling or itchiness. Whatever it is, simply notice it, observe it, take a moment to experience it, connecting with the space of your body. Now, focusing that awareness a little bit more, bring it to the top of your head, to the crown of the head, the highest point in the body. And notice if there's any physical sensations arising there. If there's anything that you can feel up in the top of your head. And from there, slowly and gently, move the awareness downward, scanning your body thoroughly, trying to observe every single muscle. This time we are on the lookout for the presence of a particular kind of sensation, that of tension or tightness. So wherever you find that the muscles are tense or tight, simply stay there for a moment and allow the tightness to dissolve, softening and relaxing that area, moving on to the next. Pay attention to the area of the forehead, the eyebrows, the eyes, all the small muscles in the eyelids and the surrounding areas, the temples. Softening the area of the nose and the cheeks. Letting go of tension in the area near the lips, the jaw, and then the throat. Coming back up to the back of the head, the back of the neck. And then just keep scanning the body in that way, observing all the muscles in the torso, the arms. Making sure you relax more and more in the body, letting go of all tension, of all tightness. Observing the area of the chest, the abdomen, and also the area of the shoulders, shoulder blades and the back, lower back. For each arm, going from shoulder to elbow, from elbow to wrist, and from the wrist to each individual finger, making sure they're all relaxed and free of tension. And then reaching back down to the hip, the pelvis, and going down through each individual leg, from the hip to the knee, from the knee to the ankle, from the ankle to the fingertips, to the toes. And in that way, making sure that your entire body is free of tension, free of tightness, allowing it to go back into its natural state, a state of balance. So just let your body rest in this way and just experience it. Notice how it feels when it's completely relaxed, just resting, cultivating the qualities of relaxation, stillness, and alertness. Your body is completely relaxed, and yet you're still awake and alert. So we use this state as our basis for meditation. From this calmness, from this serenity, you can bring your attention now to whatever object focus you choose. You can choose to remain in the physical realm, paying attention to the sensations of the breath in the area of the abdomen or the nostrils or the entire body. Or you can go into the space of the mind and pay attention to thoughts and mental images as they arise. Or you can even be aware of the awareness itself. Whatever object you choose as your object of meditation, make sure that you stick to it for the whole of the session. So begin by setting a strong intention to remain focused on your object for the rest of the meditation. And to the best of your ability, just pay attention to that. So as you try to keep your focus on the object of meditation, notice if your mind is getting pulled away by distractions, which can come from external sources through the senses, such as noises, images, lights, movement, other physical sensations in the body, such as pain, or perhaps more internal distractions, such as thoughts, memories of the past, plans about the future. If the mind happens to drift into those distractions, don't worry, it's perfectly normal. But it's important to be aware of that, to recognize that you've become distracted, and then release that distraction and return to your object of meditation. And do this again and again, as many times as necessary. And try to always keep your awareness sharp and notice if you're losing clarity of your object. The point of meditation is not to become spaced out or blank or to get rid of thoughts, but rather to be able to focus on whatever object you choose and to attend to that, implicitly ignoring all the other objects that come up. So every now and then, simply notice what the mind is doing. So check in the body and check in the mind. Be aware of what's going on. If you find yourself drifting into extremes of mental agitation or dullness or laxity, try to bring yourself back to balance by relaxing if you're too tight, and by increasing your focus if you're feeling that you're getting carried away and dull. Slowly and gently coming out of the meditation. Yourself back to the room, to your surroundings, to your body. And now, acknowledging the virtuous act that we've done in this session, the teachings and the meditation, we offer and dedicate the merit that we've created. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled, with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored and find in repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be free from their ailments. Whatever diseases are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be free. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then, may I too remain, to dispel the mysteries of the world.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone, for coming, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.